بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Thank you brothers for coming. For today inshallah we have a new topic. So last week we went through the elevation of the heaviness of the letters Alif, Lam and Ra. Today we have the last characteristic which has an opposite in the book. There is another one which, as we said, it doesn't have any implications on the recitation, which is not going to be discussed here, from the idlaq and ismat. So that idlaq and ismat, we're not going to touch on it because it doesn't have any recitation rules to follow from it. So the last one will be the itbaq and the infitah, and that is in page number 82 in the book. So if you read from the first slide, it actually talks about that the letters, the Arabic letters, are into two groups. One group of 4 letters, which is called itbaq letters, and all of the other 25 are of the infitah letters. So the word itbaq means adhesion in English, which is when you pronounce these letters, the sound is confined, munhasar, that's the Arabic terminology used, between the tongue and the hanak, between the tongue and the upper palate, the lisan and the hanak. Because of that, these 4 letters have additional strength into their pronunciation. These 4 letters are the sad, the dad, ta and dha. These 4 letters, we call them huruf al-itbaq because the tongue, the sound gets trapped or confined between the tongue and the upper palate. All of the other letters, the sound is not trapped into that area. And you will notice that these 4 letters are also 4 of the elevated letters, which are khussa, daghtin, qidh. So apart from these 4, we have 3 more letters, the khaf, the kha, and the ghain, and the qaf, which are also elevated, but they are munfatiha, they are opened, which means the sound is not confined between the upper palate and the tongue. So what does that imply? It implies that these 4 letters have higher level in terms of their tafkhim, right? So that's why Imam al-Jazari said وحرف الاستعلاء فخم وخصص لطباق أقوى. He's saying the huruf al-itbaq have higher level in terms of their elevation compared to the letters of the other 3 letters of tafkhim, which are open, and that becomes very, very clear when you have the kasra. Like if you say qila or mustaqim, it's different from tilka idhan qismatun ضيزى ضي, you know, ضي. All of these letters, the 4 letters, even the si as well, all of them, they have a higher tafkhim, level of tafkhim, one level, because they have 2 characteristics, 2 heavy characteristics that's pulling the tongue upwards. The first one is the elevation, and the second one is the adhesion or the itbaq. Because of that, they are heavier letters than the other 3 letters. So if you read the book, let's continue inshallah, you'll see the difference in page number 83. You will see 2 slides. The first one compares the letters of the lowered opened, like the kaf. You see how the sound direction is going outwards from the mouth. K, ek, it goes out. While if you compare something which is elevated but also open, like the qaf, it's aqqa, it's going upwards. So the kaf is going outside, the qaf is going upwards. However, the at is pushing all the way up. It's not, there's adhesion in there, there's no openness. And that's clearly summarized in the last example, which is in page 83, the bottom part of it. You see the 3 letters, the kaf and the qaf and the dha. You see how the direction of the sound um, is becoming clear. And that's why sometimes when you read the Quran and we keep focusing on these letters, we say you need to show the adhesion characteristic. Because if you don't, the ta becomes like a ta, a heavy ta. At. So at is not at, right? You can't say الطيبون للطيبات. You have to say الطيبون للطيبات. The full adhesion, the full tongue hugging the top part of the mouth. And the rule that we discussed in terms of the levels of elevation, that's on page 84. So this goes hand in hand with the 5 levels of the tafkhim that we discussed before. Remember, we said the fatha with alif, then the fatha without the alif, and so on and so forth. This goes hand in hand, meaning these 5 becomes 10 in a way, because the ta is heavier than qa. Both of them are elevated letters, but the ta has itbaq. So the itbaq is even one level higher than elevation. And these are the examples. So ضامر is أشد تفخيما من غالب. ضامر غالب. وطور وقوم. Same thing with عظيم compared to خيفة or قيل. They sound lower, a little bit lower, but they're still elevated. All of them, they are still مفخمة. They are still heavy letters. But their levels of heaviness is different. So any question on this one, brothers, before we move on? It's a very important topic. Many people don't give it justice for this characteristic. Good. I'm hearing no questions, no raised hands. That's a good sign. Let's move on, inshallah. So after this, we start with the sifat or the characteristics which doesn't have any opposites. So we said there are 8 sifat, 8 characteristics which has no opposite. لا ضد لها. صفات لا ضد لها. The first one is الصفير, whistling. الصفير. So this whistling is a unique sifa or characteristic for only 3 letters. These 3 letters are the sin, the sad, and the zai. The sin and the sad and the zai, they have some sharpness that is applied to the articulation point that forces some whistling to come because of this narrowness that happens in the passage. The passage of the sound becomes very tight. And it's very similar to the whistle, you know, how the whistle works is like you blow air into it and it's very tight, thin opening. And because of that thin opening, the whistle sound gets produced. So these are the 3 letters, the sin, s, as, 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 yeah, all of these. Sorry, as, as, yeah, 3. Now, one of the common mistakes with, let's go for the Safir. So he's saying that if you read these words, the example, yes, Brother Tai.
First it is TA, not tie.
DA. TA.
Yeah, yeah.
TA. Okay.
No,
TA.
the question is like when you look at like you say sin, sad, and z. But there are other letters like sh. It can also like have whistling with it. Like why especially those 3? Well,
Yeah,
I mean, Sheen is the one that is on top of my head now, but there can be others. I don't remember.
yeah. So that's exactly why we need to, because the sheen could have some whistling gets added to it, but that's not a welcome addition, so it shouldn't be. It should be clear from that whistling. These are the only 3 letters where the whistling sound is expected to happen. The other letters should be clear from that. So the sheen has another characteristic which is called the tafashi. Tafashi is when you have the air spreading across the whole mouth. So actually, the sheen doesn't have that narrowness, which pushes the sound to be thin and to be sharp, to make that whistle sound. It has to be ash, ash, ash. The minute it becomes ash, then you're adding safir to it, which is not a welcome safa. It has to be cleared from that. Is that clear? Balati? You're on mute in case you're talking. Sorry. Yes. Come again, brother. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying it is clear, but
Mm.
I think it is a bit like practically I'm not 100% like seeing how this happens because it is
Mhm.
common to like any word ending with sheen
Yeah, yeah.
that you, like it becomes a little longer, like same like a word ending with seen.
Yes.
Well, it's not intentional, but it
No, it
happens.
is. It is. They are both loose letters. So the loose letters take more time to pronounce, and they will have, especially on the sukun. Like if you say لإيلاف قريش, it has to sound like this. Otherwise, it sounds like لإيلاف قريش. You see the sh. Now I added whistle to it, but that's not supposed to happen. It should be clear from the whistling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clear now. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Yes, brother Bayu, did you have any comments?
Yes, sorry for this is related to the previous topic,
Yeah.
the heavy letters,
Yes.
itbaq letters. For any tips for students who like maybe they struggle to make the sound heavy and they keep trying to keep like always their mouth
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
forward like Dharma.
I have a good topic for you, inshallah. So
Okay.
the four letters, the sad, the bad, the ta, the wa, have a counterpart which is not mutbaq, kind of, right? So the sad has the seen. The seen, if you don't do itbaq for the seen, if the seen is an open lower letter, right? The sad is the heavy closed letter or adhesive letter. Um, same thing with the ba. The bad is very close to the dal in a way. So if you don't do the itbaq for the dal, if some people say غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, they say الضالين. They don't say الضالين. They say الضالين. So the dal comes close. Same thing with the ta with the ta. So some people say الطيبون. They don't say الطيبون. Same thing with the va, comparing it to the dal. So my tip for you is try to alternate the two letters. So you say for example أحط بسطت أحط بسط, keep doing ta until you try to contrast the two letters with each others. It's kind of calibration, like you need to calibrate that, you need to hear your voice and look at yourself maybe in a mirror or
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
video, and then say ta like this. Va there, that like this, you know?
Okay. Inshallah. Jazakallah.
Oh, yeah, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Now, good questions, mashallah, brothers. So one of the things with the sad, it's just a comment from the book, is that one of the common mistakes with the sad itself is that some people use the lips to pronounce the sad. So they say s, as, and they say as, right? They close the lips to make that the sad sound clearer, right? And that has no facts, no basis for it, because the articulation point of the sad has nothing to do with the lips. And even from the words of Dr. Ayman Suwaid when he was explaining his book, he said most probably this came from one of the teachers who may be blind. Sorry, one of the students who was blind, so he was just listening to the sad and he thought that this is how you pronounce it. Or someone who maybe has no teeth, so he's trying to protect his teeth braces and by saying os and keeping his tooth braces inside. In both cases there is no reason for anyone to do the sad like that. So you say الفصل الفصل. You don't say الفصل. You don't have to close your lips to say حرف الصاد. That's a common mistake which shouldn't happen. After that, inshallah, we'll start with the qalqala. Qalqala. So the word qalqala has an Arabic root for it, which means it's disturbed movement. So you see here there are two things that's happening at the same time. It's a movement, but it's disturbed movement. So the example, the word originally came from, if you see the photo on the book, page 85, it's a photo of a pot, and they put the pot on 3 rocks. They call these 3 rocks the athafi. These are basically, you put them, and then you put the fire underneath, and you put the water. So when it starts boiling, the pot starts shaking, but the pot, it's still in its place. It's not moving, it's not going anywhere. So it's still sakin, but it has some haraka. Yeah? It's sakin, but has some vibration to it. And that's why they chose this specific word for the definition, because if you say it's a haraka, it's a movement, then you're saying it's a fatha dhamma kasra, which is not the case, because the qalqala happens when the letters have sukoon on them. So the letters of qalqala are 7 letters, right? Qutubu jad, sorry, 5 letters. Why did I say 7? 5 letters. Qutubu jad. Qutubu jadin are the 5 letters. And these 5 letters, what happens is when you stop on them with sukoon, if you remember with the in the very first part of the characteristics, we said that these letters, in addition to the hamza and the kaf and the ta, are strong letters, are very tough letters, difficult letters to pronounce, حروف شديدة, because the sound stops at them. So if I don't do the qalqala, the ta, for example, would sound like at. I can't go anywhere. The sound stops completely. So the only way I could run away from that toughness is by adding that additional qalqala, which is a disturbed movement. Ato, like this. So what happens with these 5 letters is when it is emitted with the qalqala, when it's sakin, it's emitted by parting the 2 components of the articulation point again. So why do we focus on that parting part? Is that if you remember when we were talking about how the sounds are produced, we said that the huruf which has sukoon, the sakin letters, non-vowel letters, we said these ones, they are produced by closing on the articulation point, by hitting the articulation point. Ab, ab. So I go hamza before, and then I hit the articulation point. While we said the vowel letters, they are produced by parting from the articulation point. So if, I'll give another example of harful mim. If I say so that's sakin, I am hitting the articulation point. If I say by parting, which is mutaharrik, it becomes ma, mu, mi. So I'm starting with the mim and I'm parting away from it. These 5 letters, when they have sukoon, they are differentiated from this rule, because although I'm going for the ba and I'm saying ab, but then after that I am moving away from the articulation point and I'm saying ab. So that qalqala happens after I hit the articulation point and I move away from it, So it's kind of 2 movements in here, and that's summarized in the next page, 86. If you see the table on the top of the page, it compares the 3 letters, the sakin letters, the muqalqal letters, and the mutaharrik letters. The sakin letters, how it's emitted by collision, by hitting the articulation point. And how it's what is accompanied its emission? Nothing, right? It's just the letter itself. However, the muqalqal is emitted by parting. So when you part from the letter, you are emitting the sound, and what accompanies it? Nothing, because it has sukoon. There's nothing. then the letter with haraka, it's also emitted by parting, which is similar to the muqalqal, but it has a haraka into it. And that's why we need to be very careful with the qalqala, is that some people add haraka to the way they pronounce the qalqala. So they make a movement to it, which is not the case. So when I say, for example, kasab, kasab, it's not the same as kasaba, kasaba, kasaba. You see, kasaba, it's not that kasab, kasab. The difference is the minute I move my jaw with it, rather than just the articulation point, then I'm adding a fatha. Kasab, kasab. Now I'm just moving from the articulation point. The other one is kasaba, kasaba. So I am adding voice and I'm moving my. So that's why we need to be very careful how we do the qalqala, because sometimes it sounds like for some people that it adds haraka. And sometimes that actually might change the meaning. So if you take an example and you keep note of this one, the word, for example, فَدَعُوا, فَدَعُوا, right? فَدَعُوا اللَّهَ, فَدَعُوا اللَّهَ means, or then you supplicate or you ask Allah. You ask Allah. Ad'u means make dua to Allah subhanahu. If I add a little bit of haraka for the dal, it becomes فَدَعُوا اللَّهَ. فَدَعُوا اللَّهَ means let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Astaghfirullah. So the meaning changes dramatically just by overdoing the qalqala and changing it slightly to a haraka. And that is an opinion of some people actually. So some people even wrote it in books and stuff, not authentic books, nothing solid, but some people just made their own books, and they started saying by the qalqala, it's not this movement is a slight movement. So you add fatha, you add dhamma, you add kasra. So if you take, for example, the word laqad kana, they say that is a qalqala which follows the letter after the letter before it, right? It becomes laqadi kana. So they add a kasra to the dal, which is wrong. And same thing if you say Ibrahim, they say Ibrahim. So they add a fatha to the qalqala, the ba. It becomes Ibrahim, like this, fatha. And some, even tubatum, they say that's a qalqala which has dhamma. Tubutum, like this they read it. So these are all, of course, wrong. There's no value for these opinions, because the letter itself has sukun. It's very clear. The letter has sukun. It doesn't have any haraka. And if you add a haraka to it, then that is something else which we call a rawm. And we'll discuss the rawm later. Yani. So this has nothing to do with the qalqala. The qalqala is purely parting away from the articulation point without adding or including any haraka.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. You have a question, brother? Brother Muhammad, you had a question or?
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, the mic turned off. Yeah, I had a question. Yeah. So on the table on page 86, I just wanted to ask if a little bit explanation is given about this. The third part of the table says its emission is accompanied by. So it's nothing, and then haraka. Just give a little bit small brief explanation.
Yeah. So as I said, like the sakin letter and the qalqala letters doesn't have any fatha or dhamma or kasra. So when you pronounce the letter, you don't add anything to it. No fatha, no dhamma, no kasra. It doesn't have any vowel movement. While the letter with a haraka, it has a vowel movement to it. It has a fatha or dhamma or kasra. That's what it means. Yeah. That's contrasting the qalqala with both. So when someone say, what's the difference between qalqala and sukoon, or what's the difference between qalqala and haraka? This is the difference. This table is the difference. The qalqala is produced in the same way that you produce a letter with a haraka, but it doesn't have haraka. It's just a disturbance that happens by parting away from the articulation point after you just hit it, without adding any haraka. Yeah.
Understood. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. So let's go to page 87 and we discuss here inshallah the levels or the maratib of qalqala. So qalqala in general has 2 levels. Now some people add a 3rd level, but we're not going to discuss this here. So the 2 levels are, the first one is the great qalqala or qalqala kubra, and the second one is the lesser qalqala, which is the qalqala sughra. Qalqala kubra and qalqala sughra. The kubra is when you stop on the letter. Stop means you end with it. When you're reading, you stop on it and you take a breath. The qalqala sughra is if it's sakin, the letter of the qalqala has sukun on it, but it's in the middle of the word or of the sentence. So you're not stopping, you're not cutting and taking breath on it. It's not a complete stop. Same thing, like if you read the examples, يخلق, يخلق, sorry, يخلق and يخلق, both of them. يخلق بالقسط اضرب بهيج يولد الحق وتب الحج أشد. So you see when you stop on it, becomes very clear, the qalqala. The lesser qalqala, because it's in the context, so you can't actually stop completely on it. So it becomes نقع أطعمهم حبل يجعل يدخلون يخلق مثلها. If I stop on يخلق مثلها تساقط عليك اذهب إلى تخرج بيضاء قد أفلح. So that's the examples of the 2 levels of qalqala. There's 2 conditions here, or 2 cases, which is on page 87 also in the book in the lower part. So the first one is when a letter of qalqala is merged into a letter identical to it or similar, it should not have qalqala, because the idgham merging would be broken if it's made with a qalqala. So the qalqala is only when you're pronouncing that sukoon. If you don't pronounce that sukoon, or you're not making that sukoon clear, then you're merging it, then you can't do the qalqala. So if I say, for example, اضرب, that's qalqala. Then you say اضرب بعصاك, no qalqala, because now the ba got merged with the other ba which has fatha, and then it's with the which has a kasra, and all of this is now history. You can't say اضرب بعصاك. That's not merging anymore, right? Same thing وقد دخلوا, and this is the sign of the full idgham, which we'll come to it later inshallah. The first letter has no haraka, no sukoon, no nothing on it. The second letter has shadda. That's how you know it's a full idgham. Same thing with this one. قد تبين. Now this one is not a full idgham, it's an incomplete idgham, because of the ta and the ta is a special case. Same thing with this one. So you don't see the shadda, but still idgham, it's a incomplete idgham, which means you enter with a ta, you leave with a ta. So you say basatta. In this one you can't say basata, you can't say that. That's not how you pronounce it. Same thing with farrattum. You don't say farratatum, you don't say that, because there is no, remember, in the Uthmani Mus'haf, you don't see any sukoon, any jazm here. Once you don't see any sukoon or jazm, that means that letter has got merged with the next letter. Any question on this one, brothers, before I go to the second comment? It's good. No hands raised. MashaAllah, beautiful. The second comment is the one we just explained. So said some people make the another level, which is basically add a level for the قلقلة وسطى. They call it قلقلة وسطى وذلك في الحرف المتطرف غير المشدد حال الوقوف عليها. So only in the if it's in the end of the word which has a shadda on it, right? الغير المشدد, sorry. So they say this one with shadda is one level higher than this one without shadda. But that again, that's not the opinion that we have from our scholars and from Al-Jazari, because that shadda is actually two letters, right? So you're not making qalqala on both letters, you're just making qalqala on the second letter. So yeah, it sounds different because it has two letters on it, which means you have to do the nabr additional to it. So this one, for example, yukhlaq, this one al-haqq, you add a nabr to it because of the shadda. But that doesn't mean it's a heavy qalqala. The amount of qalqala that you have, the amount of parting away from the articulation point after that is exactly the same. It's just it has another shadda to it, which is not the qalqala. So that's why we're not going for that second opinion, which talks about 3 levels of qalqala. And that's example that is mentioned clearly in the bottom part of the page, saying when stopping on a letter with a qalqala with shadda, as in these words haqq, tab, al-hajj, ashad, the qalqala is for the second of the doubled letters because the first is merged and is emitted by collision between the two components of the articulation parts. Accordingly, there will be no effect of stress on the clarity of the qalqala of the stressed letter. So the qalqala in al-hajj is the same as bahij. The qalqala part, that additional reflection, that the disturbance that happens in the end, sounds exactly the same. But before that, it doesn't sound the same because one has shadda, the other one doesn't have shadda. I hope that's clear, brothers.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام أخي محمد.
جزاك الله خير، بارك الله فيك أخي ياسر. بس مرة ثانية على الحرف المشدد والحرف الساكن، بس يعني لأنه مرات الواحد يعني شوي مثل سورة المسد مثلا، تبت يدا لهب وتب وبعدين كسب، كيف نلفظ هذا وكيف نلفظ هذا مرة أخرى لو سمحت؟
صحيح، جزاك الله خير. هو احنا بس نركز على I will explain to you guys the question and the answer after this إن شاء الله. So نركز على الجزء القلقلة من الحرف. يعني انت حاول تلفظهم اثنيناتهم هسه اعدهم وركز بس على جزء القلقلة، لا تركز على حرف الباء نفسه، ركز على القلقلة. جربها هسه. خليني اسمعك، انت ميوت حاليا.
تب 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 كسب كسب.
See the same thing، هم اثنيناتهم نفس الشيء
تقريبا، ولكن هذا شدة. كيف نفرق هذا السؤال يعني؟ كيف
الشدة هي فيها نبر، يعني الشدة فيها نبرة إضافية، فتقول تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب. تب أنا عملت pitch للساوند حتى أبين الشدة هذه.
أوكي جزاك الله خير. تب
ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب. القلقلة نفس الوزن. Both of them have the same qalqala, but one has additional nabr, which we will come to it later in the book, which is emphasizing on the sound to make that shadda clear. Because if you don't say kasab, if I don't say kasab, it becomes kasab. It becomes like a normal, like a no shadda. Kasab, like this. It has to be kasab. Sorry, tab. تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب. See, this is without nabr. It has to be تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب. So you add this additional sound to it, makes it clear that there is shadda here.
جزاك الله خير، بارك الله فيك.
So brothers, the question from Brother Muhammad was how to distinguish between the letter which has shadda, qalqala with shadda, and qalqala without shadda. And the way we explained it, we said, look, they are both, the qalqala part of both sounds exactly the same. The only difference between the two is that one of them has additional emphasis on the shadda, which happens before the qalqala. The qalqala is the last part of the pronunciation. After that, you stop. There's nothing after that. So if you go backwards from the qalqala, you listen to the two letters, they will sound exactly the same part, the qalqala. But before that, there is an emphasis on the shadda, which is not existent on the second word. Jazakumullah khair. Now we go to some common mistakes that happens when you pronounce the qalqala. The first one is, we already discussed it in the beginning when I introduced it. We said there is some people add harakat to it. So instead of saying laqad kana, instead of laqad kana, I say laqadi kana, laqadi kana, right? And that's wrong. Same thing with tubatum. They say tubutum, they add dhamma to the qalqala. And the word Ibrahim, they say Ibrahim, Iba. So they add fatha to it. So these are wrong pronunciations. Common pronunciations, but they are all not supposed to happen. The second one is adding a hamza to the qalqala. Right? This is pushing it too far, because you're stopping the sound after you moved from the articulation point. So if I say ahad, now I stopped on the qalqala. But if you say ahad, now what happened is I kept the sound running even after I stopped, and then it became a hamza after that. Allahu samad. This is wrong, because now what happened is, after the qalqala, I kept the sound coming, and the sound became a hamza, which is not supposed to happen. It has to be Allahu samad. That's it. Okay, brothers? The other one is stretching its sound and prolonging it excessively. As in the same examples. Some people make it قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, like this, make it too long. Allahu samad, like this, It has to be we have to be conservative, just normal. Don't overdo it and don't underdo it. The fourth common mistake is cutting off the sound of the qalqala letter from the sound of the following one. بتر الصوت الحرف المقلقل عما بعده. So remember, although it's a qalqala, but we are still in the same word. So we shouldn't say yaqadi. You don't have to cut it. It has to be yaqadi. So your sound is continuous. There's no cutting in the sound. You don't cut it into two words, Or you say yubasirun. That's the right pronunciation. The wrong pronunciation is yubasirun. So cutting it into two places, because now you're making a qalqala kubra. Basically, you're making a qalqala kubra. You're making a higher level of qalqala. يدخلون, one word. Instead of يدخلون. Some people read it like all of these permutations. They cut it into two pieces because they want the qalqala to be clear, but they overdo the qalqala. يعني هم يحاولون يسوون القلقلة ولكن they overdo it. They يعني يسووا أكثر من اللازم. They do it overdo it. Any questions on this one? That's all on page 88, the top part. So we could stop early. What time is it now? How much did we spend? Can't find the time. Where is the time?
7:33 at the moment.
7:33. Okay. Now we still have another 10 minutes. So let's go for the other characteristics. The next one is صفة اللين, softness, easiness. So that lean characteristic is something that is only unique for two letters. These two letters are the waw and the ya, only when they have sukoon and the letter before them is maftuh, has fatha, only in that case. Because these two letters, right, they either come with a fatha or a dhamma or kasra. They will be normal non-maddi, non-lengthening letters. When you have a sukoon on them, then they become a letter of lengthening, huruf mad. They become huruf mad. They take longer time to pronounce. That longer time, it depends on the letter before them. So if the waw has a dhamma before it, we call it harf mad, mad tabi'i. If the ya has a kasra before it, that's also normal for the ya. So mad tabi'i for the ya, harf mad tabi'i. But if the waw and the ya have sukoon on them and they have fatha before them, which is the harakah of alif, then we call this maddul lin, huruful lin. Now huruful lin, why would you call them lin mad? We're saying because they are easy to flow through the articulation point. So we say khawf, very easy. The waw goes very light and easy. There is no difficulty in pronouncing it. يوم البيت. That's why this has to be clear when you pronounce it, because if you don't say that, it becomes يوم. Now people are exaggerating the waw. It shouldn't be, because when someone make that mistake of exaggerating something in here, you correct them and you say no, there's lean here, there's softness which is unique to this letter, because it should be easy going. Ayn al-bayt, like this. Very easy characteristic, and it has implications in the future from the med perspective, because these two are huruf mad as well. So huruf mad wal lin, there are 5, the alif, the waw and the ya. With these two, all of these 5 letters, they have implications in terms of the med. The next characteristic is what we call an al-inhiraf, which is the drifting. Al-inhiraf, linguistically, it's drifting the sound of the letter due to its incomplete flow caused by the tongue blocking its path. And this is unique only for 2 letters, the lam and the ra. The lam and the ra, these 2 letters, which are also in between letters because of the very similar reason, because the sound is not getting blocked completely, yet the sound is flowing, but partially flowing. So in the case of the ra, the sound flows normal until it gets to the tip of the tongue and it gets narrowed and pushed only in that small opening. Ar, you could see it. If you keep saying ar, you can see the sound is going only from that area. While in the case of the lam, it's the opposite. The lam, the tip of the tongue is always touching and the sound is going from the sides. That's what we call al-inhiraf. So the drifting of the sound of the lam occurs on both sides of the tip of the tongue as a result of the tip obstruction of the path of the lam. And on the ra side, its sound drifts from the sides of the tip of the tongue towards its middle. That's the characteristic of the inhiraf. It's a very simple one. Go to the next one, at-takrir. At-takrir, in English it's repetition. So this repetition, it's a light trilling of the tongue when pronouncing the ra due to its tight articulation point. This reciter should be careful not to exaggerate the repetition, leading to the occurrence of more than one ra. So it's misunderstood sometimes by people saying, it's takrir means it has to be repeated multiple times. It's only one reflection of the r. Aro, like this. Aro. That's it. That's all of it. There is no, it's not ar. You can't say ar-Rahman, you can't make that. Yeah. Especially with the shadda, because the shadda demands for more time on the ra. So do that without having to repeat the letter more than necessary. Al-Qur'an, Maryam, Qarda, Qarda, like this. Then we have the characteristic of التفشي, which is the one we discussed in the beginning with Brother TA, which is only unique for حرف الشين. So حرف الشين, it's the spreading of the sound of the sheen starting from its articulation point until the sound collides with the inner palate of the top and the lower teeth. Ash, ash, like this. So he's saying the sheen has to be unique for the sheen, and it has to be very clear when you pronounce it. After that, we have two characteristics, and the last ones, inshallah. The first one is the istitala, and I will keep this for next week, inshallah. And the other one is al-ghunna. So next week we'll do the istitala and the ghunna, and with that we'll be finished with this chapter. So the next one will be very practical, inshallah, which will study most of these common mistakes with pronouncing the letters. So before we close, brothers, any questions on these 6 characteristics?
Just wanted to ask about the lean.
Lean, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that khawf, qawm, right?
Yeah.
So is this does this apply only for when it comes to the end, at the end of a sentence or part of a sentence?
No, any place where you have the ya with sukoon and there's a fatha before it.
So for instance, maliki yawmiddin, right?
Yawmiddin, yeah. You see, very, very easy going. Yawmiddin, yeah.
But if it does come at the end of the sentence, then it becomes madallin, right? Which is that.
Yes. So maddul is because of the sifa of lean.
Right.
And it's the mustahaq of it. It's the result of that characteristic.
Jazakallah khair.
وإياكم إن شاء الله.
السلام عليكم.
Yes, brother.
ممكن الإشارة لدرجات القلقلة، اختلاف حروف القلقلة في الدرجات، يعني
نعم.
شدة يعني درجة القلقلة ما بين اختلاف الحروف في القلقلة.
هي من ناحية طيب، ما جزاك الله خير. Brother Muhammad has a very good question. He's talking about the levels of the qalqala. Levels of the qalqala. We said there are only 2 levels. qalqala kubra, qalqala sughra. Now, how the qalqala sounds is different between the letters. Yes, because why? Because you have letters like qaf and ta. They are elevated letters. They are mufakhama, right? So they sound heavy. So when I stop on bilqist, this qalqala is heavy qalqala. Bilqist. It's different from idrib. This is qalqala, but it's light qalqala. However, the timing or the duration that you take to make that qalqala is the exact same time. That's why we're not differentiating here between a heavy and a light qalqala. Does that make sense? هشرحه بالعربي إذا تريد أخي محمد. احنا بنقول انه صح حرف الطاء والقاف مفخمة مستعلية، فالقلقلة تبعهم راح تكون بالنتيجة مفخمة أيضا. ولكن زمن القلقلة، يعني الزمن اللي راح تاخذه حتى تبرز هذه القلقلة الصغرى والكبرى هو نفس الزمن اللي راح تاخذه حتى تظهر الحروف الأخرى. فلهذا احنا ما ميزنا هنا بين الحروف المستعلية المفخمة والحروف المرققة. Does that make sense?
جزاك الله خير.
وإياكم إن شاء الله. So I think we'll stop here inshallah, and then we'll keep the rest of the questions for next week. We'll close here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله خير.